Day. I know that this day is kind of a special day on the calendar for us in the U.S. who are voting. And I want to thank you for being in the midst of this kind of hectic, divisive, unusual day of the year, for choosing to worship God, for choosing to grow your own spiritual life today. And yes, go out, make the world a better place around you. Be supportive of your neighbors, do civic duties, things like that. But always find your identity in the one who invites you into better love and peace and goodness in a world that breaks down those dividing walls and those barriers and invites us into a reality that brings together those who were once enemies. And so I just want to invite you to get your heart, your eyes, your ears, your spirit ready to listen to what God might say in the reading of Scripture. So if you just take a moment as we get ourselves prepared for today's devotion.
It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
Today's reading is from Luke chapter 6, and it's going to be from verse 31 today. And I'm going to read some of the context to the story so you can imagine yourself in this scene. Jesus came down with them and stood on a level place with a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea, Jerusalem, and the coast of Tyre and Sidon. And then Jesus looked up at his disciples and said, "Do to others as you would have them do to you." I think, especially in the church, we are familiar with this verse. I think culture in general is familiar with this saying. And it's not very long, but it is a verse that challenges us and invites us into a way of living in the world that not only would just benefit us, but would benefit our neighbors and make the world more into the image that God has for us. And so I want us to focus on three things in this devotion time. The first is that Jesus is challenging us to do to others as we would have them do to ourselves. So there's a doing invitation, not just a thinking. Not just think about others the way that you would like them to think about you, though that is especially valuable on a day like today. But not just think, not just sit, but what can you do for others that you would want them to do for you? You know, we've been in a lockdown and a pandemic for so long now. I mean, in the scheme of our lives, it's not that long, but in the midst of it, it feels like it's been a long time. And there might be things that you long for, that you wish someone might have called and reached out to you. Maybe it's people being a little bit safer in the way that they walk around the grocery store and the way they touch products or don't. But what is it to do things for others as we wish they would do for us? You know, of maybe I should pick up the phone and make that phone call to you. Maybe I should care even more about how do I keep myself safe as I walk out in the world around me, so that others might benefit. And so what is God inviting you to do today? Not just think, not just feel, not just sit with, but what is God inviting you to do, to act out in this world, to make the world a better place? And so Jesus invites us to do to others. And this is also sometimes challenging because we might want to just do things that benefit ourselves first. That maybe if I benefit myself, then I can start benefiting others. But start with doing for others as you would have them do to you. And so there is this reciprocity, but you need to be acting on the behalf of someone else. And there's often times where we end up just putting ourselves first, where we do for our own sake, and we leave out that step of caring for others, of supporting others. And so I want to invite you to think about who are some people in your life that you could reach out to, that you could do things for, that you could support, that you could uplift today. And on this unusual day of the year, on an election day, there's a lot of invitation to think about what you might do for others, not just for yourself. And maybe this verse might have more meaning for you today if you would just pause and read this verse over and over again, but instead of others, just fill that word in with other groups and other categories and other individuals in your life. So do to John as you would have him do to you, do to Mary as you would have her do to you. Of how do you fill in that gap of who you should act on the behalf of, so that they might then respond to you in the way that you would like them to respond. And I'm going to push that even further. What is it today to say, do to Republicans as you would have them do to you? Do to Democrats as you would have them do to you? Do to immigrants as you would have them do to you? Do to the poor as you would have them do to you? Just keep reading that verse and inserting people into that. Not to make it just this abstract others, but continue to refine that down and invite God to speak to you about what God is asking you to do for the people in your life that you encounter. So do to others as you would have them do to you. And so I want to focus on that last phrase, as you would have them do to you. And I want to point out that there's this kind of hopeful reciprocity there. There's this hopeful reciprocity of possibility. Like, it's not just do to others so that they will then do this back to you, but do to others as you would have them do to you. It's the potential, the possibility that we might live in a world where that loving act might be reciprocated back to you. But you can't control it. You can't make it happen. But you're going to live as if I love and treat others well, they just might do those same things back to me. And when we live in this kind of divisive season and nobody wants to be supportive of one another, we live without the possibility. We live without that possibility of bridge building, of finding the humanity in each other. And what is it to live out this verse of doing things for each other that we would hope they might do back for us, but we know that we can't guarantee it, we can't require it, but we're going to live in this radical hope that if I live out my calling well, maybe, just maybe, people will then respond with treating me with dignity and with love. And so I want to invite you to think about, who are you waiting on to change before you'll act rightly? There's those people in our lives that when they change, ABC, and they start living the way that I'm hoping that they'll live, then I'll start doing some things that might be nice for them. But until that day happens, I'm done. But what is it to live by doing to others as you would have them do to you, without that requirement or conditionality of your acts of love and justice and goodness? And so on this day, I just invite you to listen for what acts God is calling you into, for who God is calling you to act on the behalf of and for, and to open yourself up to that possibility of doing these acts of love and justice and kindness and goodness, of doing those things without the condition that the other person has to show that they deserve it first, show that they're going to reciprocate it first, but do that with the generosity and just let it go out into the world, and hope that act might be the framework, the starting point of a new possibility and a new day in which God's kingdom might rule on this earth a little bit more visibly. And so I want to invite you to listen one more time to our scripture text for today. Jesus came down with them and stood on a level place with a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea and Jerusalem and the coast of Tyre and Sidon. And then Jesus looked up at his disciples and said, "Do to others as you would have them do to you." The word of the Lord. May you live that calling out today. And may we have the hope that maybe one day this world will live into that so fully that we will reciprocate and that we will act with love and goodness to each other, and we might find harmony through God.
It is well